Welcome back, free thinkers, and if you're new to the channel, welcome to Kaizen and the Pursuit of Truth, the official video channel of Living Well Under Natural Law, LLC, where truth is all that matters, and the Freedom Project 2020, where we are working to restore all power and sovereignty back to the individual. In parts 1 and 2 of this video series, we covered the body's primary job, which is to maintain homeostasis, and in part 2, we covered what the perfect human diet would constitute. In this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly what I eat, what I consider for myself to be the perfect human diet based on what we've learned in parts 1 and 2. So, I hope you enjoy this one and find it enlightening. Okay, let's get into this. Part 3. First, let's recap parts 1 and 2 very quickly. Part 1, obviously, the body has one primary job, and that's to maintain homeostasis, to find that perfect balance. Everything we do either aids in that process or hinders that process. In part 2, I showed you this is what makes up a perfect human diet. We need to get those essential nutrients into our body every single day to again help maintain homeostasis, to avoid disease states, nutritional deficiencies, the whole 9 yards. So part 3 here, I'm going to show you exactly how I do that to maintain the level of health that I have for so many years and to have slowed my aging process so significantly. But before we get into what I eat now, I kind of want to take you through an evolution of my personal diet, because I know everybody's on their own personal journey trying to figure out what works best for you. And like I said yesterday in part 2, the perfect human diet is going to be a little bit different for everybody. We all like different things. We all have different taste profiles. We all have different levels of activity. So everyone's going to be a little bit different, but hopefully in explaining how I got to where I am today, maybe it'll help you see some pitfalls where you're going wrong, or maybe something you've overlooked in your life that maybe you can focus on if you're not where you want to be right now. So I think one of the most important things in establishing what's the perfect diet for every single one of us, every individual, is we have to ask the most important question, which is why. Why am I eating the things I'm eating? Why is it I do what I do? What's important to you? We have to figure out these questions. And the most important one is, why am I doing what I'm doing? And so by the end of this video, you'll understand why I do everything I do. And it's already been explained, obviously, in the first 2 parts of this series. I want to maintain homeostasis. I want to be in balance as much as possible. I'm going to do everything I can to help my body maintain that balance, because to me that's aligning with natural law. Anything I do that throws it out of balance is violating natural law, and I personally don't want to suffer those consequences, so I don't do all the things that I don't believe, quite honestly, anybody should do, because they're not good for you. But anyway, we all have our own why. And it's going to be a little bit different for everybody. But at the end of the day, your body requires essential nutrition, and it's trying to maintain homeostasis. So let's just start all the way at the beginning. From 1967 to 1989, my birth through my military phase. And obviously I ate a standard American diet, because you're pretty much just given what your parents feed you, right? But the food supply was not nearly as perverted as it is today. When I was growing up in the 70s, food was still fairly in its natural state. We've seen those memes, the picture of the beaches in the 70s, and everybody was thin. They looked healthy for the most part. Very rarely did we see someone who was obese or knew people who were suffering from chronic illnesses, because the food supply still had not been fully perverted back then. And the two things that have perverted the food supply, we can see right here. This is kind of when it all started. If we look at the bottom here, the early 70s is when they introduced high fructose corn syrup to the food supply. And that's much more dangerous than natural sugar, but natural sugar isn't good for you either, because as we talked about in the last part of the series, your body only requires 4 grams of glucose at any given time. And so we shouldn't be flooding our body with all these sugar molecules all day, every single day, because that's what's leading to this rise in chronic disease. The other thing is the seed oils that we've put into the food supply. They were introduced, back in the early 1900s, and then we see the rise of Crisco right around the 50s here. That's when we see that little spike starting to rise. But we can see right around, again, right in the 70s is when we see this starting to rise. And we see this market increase. And right here we have the market increase of diabetes that follows along with these seed oils and the rise in high fructose corn syrup. So that unholy trinity is seed oils, high fructose corn syrup, and processed food. I mean, that's what's causing this epidemic of chronic disease in our world today. And I thankfully have avoided all of that because I learned along the way, and I'm going to show you in this video how I came to where I am today. So before we get there, let's talk a little bit about the power of intention and manifestation, because this has played a lot into the way that I view food and the way that I've wanted to live life. And I figured this out way back when I was in Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts, somewhere along there. I remember looking at my Cub Scout handbook, and there was this little section on sexual maturity, and this is what I looked like. Probably this is, I would say, between 9 and 10 years old is when I made the decision. And the body that I've manifested over the last 40 years, almost 50 years now, is because of this decision that I made way back when I was in Cub Scout. They showed you're going to have the broad shoulders and the muscles and everything. And over here I said, I made the decision, the conscious decision, that I wanted to live my life with this body. I wanted the six-pack, I wanted the chest, I wanted the broad shoulders. And so that decision alone has defined the way that I go about everything in my life. This is the way I want to look. So in making a decision about why you're going to choose the food you're going to choose, you have to decide, what is my perfect body? What is the image that I want to portray to the world? Because that will help you make better decisions. Because if you're not happy with the way you look, and you're not happy with your body, you're not happy with your health, we have to understand homeostasis, we have to understand the essential nutrients, we have to do a food audit, look at what we're eating, and we have to change our habits if we're not happy. So you have to have that image in your mind of, what's my goal? What do I want to look like at the end of this? And then just adopt your life to achieving those goals. So from 1989 to 1998, my college and corporate life, what I like to call my decade of destruction. After I got out of the military, I went straight to college, and essentially I had the standard college diet: pizza, beer, donuts, fast food, cereal, whatever you could fit in, because life was busy and hectic when you're in college. In addition to taking a full load of classes every semester, I was also working 2 jobs. I drove a school bus, so I got up through college, at 5 a.m. in the morning to go take kids to school, came home, went to class, went back, picked the kids up from school, came home, and then 4 nights a week I was delivering pizzas for Papa John's. So I was extremely busy. So you kind of just fit in whatever you can, right? And I still remember on my school bus route, and this is all leading up to eventually what I looked like at 31 years old. But my school bus route, I had to take, I believe it was junior high first, then I went and got the grade school kids, and then I had a half-hour break before I went to pick up the high school kids. And in that half-hour break, I would always go to Dominic's, and I always get a chocolate Long John and a cinnamon roll every single day for years. That was my breakfast. And back now, and I can't imagine what it was doing to my body. But now I understand. But back then I didn't know. I figured, hey, I like the taste, the flavor, whatever. I didn't think it was doing any harm. But again, as you saw from my pictures when I was 31, it did a lot of harm. But yeah, so that's pretty much what everyone does. I was still active and athletic, even despite my knee surgery in 1990. I still went to the gym. I was still working out probably 3-4 days a week. Again, it's one thing that's always been important to me, was staying healthy. I was, however, deeply fooled by the whole heart-healthy soy protein propaganda, as well as the heart-healthy vegetable oils and, the I can't believe it's not butter. Again, this is when I was in my fat phobic stage. So I ate a lot of crap in this decade of destruction. But I did cut out soda in the early 90s. Just something intuitively in my gut told me that I probably shouldn't be consuming Coca-Cola or any soda, because I still remember how it made me feel. It just never made me feel good. I never really liked carbonated beverages anyway. So that one was easy. And when I got out of school in 93, and I switched to Diet Coke, and I remember selling health insurance to small businesses and farmers in central Illinois after college. I didn't have any money. I was broke. And so I would go to McDonald's and get the value meal with they had this cheeseburger with like a junior cheeseburger with tomato and lettuce on it. So I figured that at least gave me a little bit of something healthy in there. But I would always get a Diet Coke. And literally within 3 months, I just put 2 and 2 together, that every time I drank a Diet Coke, I would, within a half hour, start getting a severe headache that started in the back of my head. And that was from the aspartame, because aspartame is a neurotoxin. And this is way before I understood how bad aspartame was for you. But once I figured that out, I quit drinking all soda forever. I mean, 93 was the last time I pretty much drank any soda. And I switched to iced tea. And I just got the fresh brewed iced tea, and that was fine for me. And that's what I continue drinking to this day. So at the end of this 10-year cycle, and I think if you've seen part 2, you've seen this picture, but I want to show you a picture of my face when I was 22 years old in the Army, and then my face when I was 31. And you can see the major difference. I was lean at 22 years old in the military, and then this is after 10 years of essentially college and the corporate world. And this is what happened. I mean, you can see the bloating in my face and everything. I was overweight. I was, again, probably 215 pounds, which is 40 pounds heavier than I am today. So again, I did it all wrong. And I looked at the mirror one day and I said, thought back to when I was 9, 11 years old. I said, this is not the life that I wanted to live. Everything needs to change. And so I made the conscious decision to change everything. So 1998 to 2007, out of the matrix, the beginning of my true health journey. 1998, that was a year that I realized that the corporate lifestyle wasn't for me. And again, I subconsciously got myself fired from my job, and I never went back. And I haven't drawn a regular paycheck since 1998. It's also the year, I think it was May of 98, was the last time I ever went to a doctor's office for anything. I had some kind of sinus infection or whatever that I got every single year in the winter time, and I got some antibiotics. I think I only maybe took 2 of them, and my mind said, you don't need this garbage. I had already been following Dr. Mercola. I had discovered his website because he was actually living in the town right next to me. I was in Schaumburg, Illinois at the time, and he was actually based out of Hoffman Estates. And so I started following him, and I was reading all of his articles and everything, and I was like, I have a lot to learn. I have a lot to learn to truly get back to where I want to be. But my diet from there forward was primarily lean protein, healthy carbs, and low fat. And again, I was still in my low fat phobic, low fat stage. And the protein I ate for years, probably for 20 years, was primarily lean chicken breast. When I said protein, I was probably 90% was chicken breast is what I was eating all those years. Which, come to find out, I don't eat chicken breast anymore. I haven't had it in about 5 years now. Because it's not the healthiest protein out there. I was already consuming mostly water, tea, milk, and I was still drinking alcohol at the time. But I had added minerals in, as we saw from the last video, beginning right around 1996. So all these pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together beginning in 1996 when that lady handed me that tape, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. So I had already begun the process. I was also consuming Red Bull and Monster for energy. I didn't think there was anything wrong with sucralose at the time. Come to find out, I was wrong about that. So I finally quit drinking those in roughly 2007. Is when I got over that kick. I fully awoke to the matrix in late of April 2007, and that's what changed everything. So from 98 to 2007, I had begun to adjust my diet. I had gotten myself back into really good shape physically, and I was doing what I could to stay healthy. I was working out. Probably back then I was going to the gym 4 or 5 days a week and just continuing to learn. But even by 2007, from 2007 to where we are today, the past 17 years, everything has changed. I mean, completely. From 2007 to 2020, I was probably consuming anywhere from 2,800 to 3,500 calories a day. And come to find out, I don't need that many calories. And that's one of the things that I've learned about most people in America. Everyone, probably 95% of the population, is eating anywhere from 800 to 1,500 calories more per day than their bodies actually need. And again, that's leading to the chronic disease epidemic. As we go through this part 3 here, you're going to see everything that I ate. I've got a ton of pictures. I used to take pictures of my food all the time and send them to my stepsister to show her the dinner I was eating. Let's keep going here. I do have one chronic condition that has driven much of this quest for knowledge. I think it was probably around 95, 96, and I don't know how it started. I have a few different theories, but I never had this problem until after I got out of the military. So maybe it was from, the vaccines I was given in the military. Maybe it was just from a poor diet. It could be a number of different things, but I developed a ringworm, a systemic mycelial infection. And, this is what it turned into. And it started, I still remember, like 98. I had a little ring on the back of my leg that I treated with, actually what was called activated oxygen. It was an MLM business I was with, Beverly Sassoon, MLN, selling activated oxygen, and it actually worked to kill the ringworm, but it had already established a foothold in my body, and I had no idea what it was. I used this activated oxygen, and I got rid of the ringworm on the back of my leg, and I just thought that I was done with it. But it had worked its way up to my scalp, and it's still there today. You can still see the whiteness on my scalp here. It's gotten a lot better since from 98 to 2009 is when it really got really bad. And I finally put my foot down and said, I got to do something about this. And I think it was 2010, I got on this anti-candida diet, and I bought like $600 worth of pills and everything. And I suppose it helped a little bit, but it didn't heal it, because I still have it to this day. But the one thing that I have figured out that works better than anything else is just sunlight. I mean, I can go to the lake. If I spend 6-7 hours in the sun at the lake for a day, it will completely die off. But if you don't get all the roots, it just grows back within a week. So I've had spots on my body that have disappeared completely from being out in the sun, so I know that's the key. The key is you have to kill the roots. But the problem with the scalp is the mycelia actually hides in the follicles of your hair, and it's almost impossible to get to. Unless I completely shaved my head and stayed in the sun for every day for a couple of weeks, I could probably get rid of it then, but I'm not willing to shave my head yet. But anyway, so this is what it looked like. I mean, you can see how bad all the lesions. Every time I took a shower, I would spend 20 minutes in the shower scraping off the dead skin. You can even see it here on my forehead. And again, I don't know what caused it initially, but I do know it's fungus. It's a fungal infection. And the things that I've done with my diet were a direct response to this skin issue that I had. And what I found out over the years is the more carbohydrates I have in my body, the more it flares up. And so that tells me that parasites and fungus and even some bad bacteria in the body, they all feed off of sugar. They all feed off of simple sugar and glucose. So the more glucose you have in your body, the more it's gonna inflame. And I noticed that. It took me years probably a decade to figure out that sugar is really causing it. And so that's been one of the driving factors behind changing my diet. And as I changed my diet, I began to realize that removing the sugar and carbohydrates had a whole lot of other beneficial effects on other parts of my body besides this skin issue. So I wanted to tell people that, because that was one of the driving forces behind changing my diet over the years. So from 2007 to 2019, I would call it my plant-based, paleo, raw food, and clean eating years. And again, it was primarily lean protein, healthy carbs, and low fat. So I continued it, but I began to refine it because of that skin issue. And I started consuming my daily essential nutrient shake in 2007. Because as I started to eliminate things, and I woke up, I was listening to some podcasts, and they were advertising, things like Enerfood and different health and fitness products. I remember I was listening to Mike Adams, but way back when, David Wolf. I started listening to all these health influencer gurus back in when I first woke up, and so I started adjusting my diet. And I was like, I think I mentioned this yesterday or in part 2. What's the most efficient way that I can get all the essential nutrients into my body every day? And I just decided, hey, the easiest, most efficient way is to do a shake. And just put all these ingredients in one, have my shake, I'm covered, and then, hey, whatever I have for dinner, that will just fill in the gaps. So that's kind of what has brought me to today. And tomorrow in part 4, I'm going to show you everything that I put in my shake. So if you want to try it, maybe it's something that will fit into your life if you want to simplify things, because the shake is the foundation of my entire diet. I lost my stepfather to cancer in May of 2009, and that was another driving force behind going plant-based. I did all the research, the whole acidic thing, alkaline, and all the research I did to try and help him with his cancer led me to believe that, hey, 50% raw, plant-based, cut out the red meat, all that stuff, that was going to be optimal for my diet. And so I basically geared my diet around that idea from 2009 through about 2014 for the most part. Lean protein, healthy carbs, low fat, but a lot of plants, a lot of salads. And I tried to keep it raw because that's what I had learned in all this research for my stepfather's cancer. But that diet ended up having negative consequences on me, as I'll get to as we move forward here. So yeah, that was when I started my plant-based raw food stage. 2011 is when I started the Candida remediation diet, as I talked about earlier. And I started a 14-bed all-organic garden when I moved to Texas in 2009 as part of this evolution of consciousness and trying to get back to nature and the whole 9 yards. So this was my backyard when I moved to Texas. Really not much going on back there. Place for my dog to run, and that was about it. So I went out and bought all this wood and 12 yards of organic dirt. I brought it all in. This took me about 2 weeks to create these 14 beds, but this garden was my pride and joy for 7 years, from 2009 to 2016. I would spend probably 6 hours a day out in my garden, and this is actually the period of my life where I was learning the most of what I learned to bring all this content that I'm creating today. Was working in my garden and having my headphones on and listening to my iPod and these podcasts, learning about the true history of our world and all the things that I've learned. This is where those 50,000 hours comes in. But every February I would be one of the first in line when they brought in the new tomato plants and the vegetables, and I wanted to have the first pick of the plants when they came into the nurseries. So this was my life for 7 years, and this is at the peak. I eventually had made the tomato cage. I believe I had between 30 and 40 tomato plants in here, and I think my peak one year was 700 pounds of tomatoes that I produced in my backyard. So yeah, it was something. I loved what I was creating. And here you can see just some of what I grew. These were my zucchini. My zucchinis were massive. You can see this one was just over 3 pounds. And I'll show you moving forward in the pictures, but they were like that big around, and I would just cut them into 3/4 inch basically steaks, marinate them, grill them, and then top them with feta cheese and basil, and it was delicious. But this is what I created in my garden, and again, I did the research. I had learned about soil amendments. I learned about all the things that it takes to make a thriving garden, and so I did it because I thought that this was the key to optimal health. What I didn't realize was all the plant toxins that I was consuming, because I had no idea that plants were toxic back then. Here's just a couple of, this was the purple Cherokee tomato. This is Aunt Ruby's German green tomatoes, and I mean I probably grew 25 different species of tomatoes. I loved the heirloom tomatoes. I would always look for the heirloom tomatoes every year. And then this one here, I actually won first prize in a gardening contest. This was 21 ounce Brandywine. That was biggest tomato. So yeah, I mean, gardening was my thing for 7 years. And so now I'm going to take you through the dinners. You know, this is what I was eating for 2009, from when I moved to Texas all the way up through February of 2020. This is the type of meal that I was eating every single day. So I had a lot of salads, you know, just a full plate of salad, and then topped with grilled chicken. I had a whole hard-boiled egg on there. This is basically the same type of salad with Parmesan cheese on top. This is my grilled chicken Parmesan. And this is the zucchini I was telling you about. Grilled zucchini steaks with the feta and basil. So what we do is marinate the zucchini in olive oil and Italian seasoning, grill it both sides, and then top it with it's feta cheese, basil, fresh basil from the garden, and olive oil. And yeah, it was delicious. It's something I really loved eating. But yeah, I mean, I had big dinners all the time. This is my chicken fried rice, and I'd also do it with shrimp. And I eventually heard a podcast saying that the brown rice wasn't really all that good, and that the lowest glycemic index rice was actually jasmine rice. So that's what I switched to, white jasmine rice. When they remove all the brown stuff, it removes a bunch of the plant toxins. So I guess if you're eating rice, and the rice was the last thing that I let go of as far as carbohydrates, because I mean I loved my stir fry. You know, it was one of the favorite dishes that I used to make. But you can see I had pretty much a salad with almost every single meal, and I made my own homemade salad dressing too, with olive oil, hemp seed oil, grapeseed oil, and I think avocado oil, with Bragg amino liquids and then Italian spices, seasonings. And so I made my own homemade salad dressing too. I didn't buy any of the seed oil crap because I had already gotten rid of the seed oils from my diet. And this here was, I believe, some type of fish with, this was mango avocado salsa that my ex used to make. And this is one of my favorite dishes too I used to make. This is cubed sweet potatoes, and I used to cook it in a big wok with just coconut oil, garlic powder, and cinnamon. And it was so delicious. And you know, if you're still eating carbs and you want something healthier, it's a great dish. I used to eat that all the time. These are the eggs that I had. You know, this was a typical breakfast for me. I call them scrambled eggs. I would fry them up and then scramble them at the last minute, because the more you cook the yolk, the more oxidized it gets and the more unhealthy it gets. So I would just cook the yolk real quickly at the end. Cantaloupe was from my garden. I had a lot of green beans. Again, salad, avocado on it. And this was grilled chicken from Southside Market in Elgin, Texas. Probably the best chicken I've ever had in my life. These were maybe turkey or pork meatballs. And then these were red potatoes that I again made in olive oil, different spices. But yeah, I mean, so it was high carb, lean protein, and raw. This was my diet for 10 years. You know, same thing, green beans, fish, salsa, salad. Tuna, green beans, salad. So I mean, again, this was every day from 2009 to 2020. So now we're going to talk about the long process of eliminating things from my diet because of things that I had finally begun to notice, health issues that were creeping up on me. As we talked about earlier, in the early 90s, I had already eliminated sodas forever, so I hadn't been consuming, the high fructose corn syrup for a long, long time. And I think cutting high fructose corn syrup out of the diet, #1 priority for everybody, no matter who you are. Cut the soda out. It's one of the worst things you can put in your body. Early 2000s, I eliminated soy forever. In the 90s, I think I mentioned I was eating all those, the kashi, the soy protein, Kellogg cereals, thinking that was healthy protein. I never liked tofu, thank God. I was actually consuming a lot of the soy protein powders for workouts and things like that. And I mean, I got to tell you, it did destroy my hormone levels. I mean, I had such a low libido, like almost no sex drive, when I was in my late 30s to early 40s. And with what I've done now the last 4 years, I mean, my hormones are fully restored to where they were back when they were in my 20s. And that was all because of the changes that I made beginning in 2020, and we'll get there. 2009, 2010, and these dates are approximate because it's kind of hazy, but I do remember, I was still eating like those little chocolate brownies from Costco back in 2009, 2010, but when I started realizing that the carbohydrates were irritating the fungus in my skin, that's when I started cutting out the sugar. Okay, so all sugars were eliminated, and I haven't had any foods with excess sugar for 14 years now. By 2010-11, I started eliminating wheat, gluten, corn, but that's when I added the raw milk, because from 2009 to 2000, maybe it was 11 or 12, but what had happened on this high protein, raw food, plant-based diet was the enamel on my teeth started to rot away. And there was a point, and I still remember vividly, driving in my car, just, I don't know, not even thinking about it, but I would take my fingers and I could literally file my fingernail on my back teeth because there was no enamel. It was just rough tooth. And I remember thinking, I have to do something about this. I don't want to go back to the dentist. So I found the book Cure Tooth Decay by Romuald Nagel and found out that the nutrients for restoring your teeth are in 3 things. Fermented foods, which I don't like. I don't like the flavor. Cod liver oil, which I don't like. Or raw milk. I'm like, I can do raw milk. I'm already doing a shake. I can add raw milk to my shake. And lo and behold, within 1 year, the enamel on my teeth was completely restored. I completely restored my teeth. I didn't have to go to a dentist. And all I did was add raw milk to my diet. Because if your teeth have not been completely drilled to oblivion, and again, thank God I stopped going to dentists in 1989. I haven't been in a dentist chair since my ETS appointment from the military in 1989. And because I've avoided the dentist all these years, my teeth are still, other than the cavities I had from when I was a kid, in grade school and high school, my teeth are pretty much still intact. And if your teeth are still intact, they're still alive, then the raw milk will heal your teeth if you've got bad teeth. So it's raw milk, fermented foods, or cod liver oil. All have the essential nutrients that you need to restore your teeth. Again, for me, raw milk is the easiest way to do it. Because thankfully down here in Texas, you can buy it at the source. You have to go to the farm, which I don't have a problem doing because I like communicating with those people because they're much more awake to reality. But anyway, wheat, gluten, and corn. There was a documentary I saw called King Corn, which I'll probably be covering in my 10-minute video series coming up. But once I found out that 96% of corn is genetically modified, I'm like, okay. I don't want that in my diet anymore. So I started cutting all these refined carbohydrates out 13 years ago. And that's made a huge difference in my health. By 2014, I eliminated all bread products and seed oils. And I had cut out the soybean and, some of them, but I was still using grapeseed oil because they said it was heart healthy, whatever, again. So by 2014, I was just strictly avocado oil, coconut oil, and butter. And let's see, I think that's it. Was there one more? Yeah, that's probably it. So all the seed oils were cut out by 2014. And even the gluten-free breads I cut out. I started realizing like, I don't need them. So by 2018, I had eliminated all grains from my diet except for rice. So again, I kept, I was to the point now where, if I was on the road, I could stop in down here we had Taco Cabana, so I could have the rice bowls or the rice bowls at Chipotle. That's what I would eat if I had to eat at fast food. But then in 2019 is the year that everything changed for good. 2019 is the year that I decided to start my business, Living Well VNL, short for Under Natural Law. And at the beginning of the year, I had committed to working out 3 days per week with no excuses. Just do it. I'd kind of slacked off in 2017 and 18, and I'm like, you know what? I want to get my body back. I'm going to be 52 this year, and I just want to get my body back into top shape again. And so I made that commitment, and I stuck to it until I completely I blew my back out doing something stupid in August of that year, lifting something I didn't think was as heavy as it was, and like literally the worst pain of my life. I was kind of laid up for a whole month. But anyway, that's the year I created Living Well VNL in June of 2019. And what I did for the business was I started researching for a new ebook about oxidative stress, because that was one of the things that had driven, again, my desire for a healthy diet. And I learned about advanced glycation end products and what sugar does in the body. And again, that's why I cut out the sugars, because I learned about AGEs and everything. And so understanding oxidative stress and slowing the aging process, I was going to write this free 20-page booklet as a free promotion to get people on my email list, because that's supposedly how you build a business. But in doing the research for this book, I started coming across ketogenic diets. And this is when I first learned about gluconeogenesis, because I had never known that excess protein in the diet will convert to glucose and keep your body in that homeostatic balance of 4 grams. Yet you don't need any exogenous carbohydrates at all in your diet, because whatever protein doesn't get converted into building blocks, cells, muscle, whatever, the body uses the process of gluconeogenesis to convert into glucose. So I only learned that in 2019. And so this ebook that I was writing, what I was going to be calling Aging Gracefully, How to Reduce Oxidative Stress, Avoid Chronic Disease, and Slow the Aging Process to a Crawl. And again, it was all based on the things that I had been learning for the past 12 years. But yeah, this is the year that I began to truly understand the dangers of a high carbohydrate diet, especially in a largely sedentary society. And again, going back to the first part of this video series, the chronic diseases in our population are because we're sedentary and because most people are on a high carbohydrate diet. They're flooding a body that only needs 4 grams of carbohydrates with 50 to 200 grams of carbohydrates every single day. And almost nobody is ever in the state of homeostasis because of their diet. And that's what's leading to this chronic disease problem in our world, in America especially. So, February of 2020 is when I finally made the decision and I transitioned to a keto diet. And I've stayed with it ever since. After all the research I did, I had slowly transitioned from the plant-based to paleo to low carb. But then I finally realized it's time to overcome your fat phobia and just give it a try and see what happens. And oh my God, everything changed. When I went high fat, low carb, as you'll see, because I'm going to show you my food audit at the end of the video here, everything that I eat, the breakdown, how much fat, how much protein, how many carbs, how much it costs, the whole 9 yards, it's all coming up. And exactly what I eat every single day is going to be in the next screen. But literally within 2 weeks of going on a high fat ketogenic diet, my mind just opened up in a way that it had never had before. All the brain fog was gone. You know, for years working on that book trilogy, I would sit at my computer many days and there were just no words that were flowing. I would sit at my computer and I'm just like, I got nothing today. You know, after I went on a high fat diet, my brain started working better than it ever had. And once the pandemic started and I started blogging, I mean, I could sit down and just effortlessly write out blog after blog after blog, day after day after day. I wrote over 100 blogs in the first 6 months. Your brain requires healthy fat to operate correctly. And I have no doubt about that at all anymore, because I struggled for years. Even on the high carb diet, you know, one of the things I left out earlier was right around 2014. I remember because I was 47 years old, and from the high carb, lean protein, raw food diet, what happened, and this is what I noticed when I was working out, I had severe joint pain. And I just chalked it up to, well, I guess you're just getting old, you know? I mean, my elbows, my shoulders, my knees, my hips, everything. When I worked out, I always had really severe joint pain. And chronic insomnia, the fungus on my head wasn't really clearing up. It was just a chronic problem that I could never get rid of. And it's gotten much better on a high-fat diet. It's not completely gone because, like I said, it hides in the follicles. Actually, there's only one spot left on my body, and it's this little white spot on my forearm here. And since I've been putting topical vitamin D on it, it's almost gone too. So, low libido, the problem with my teeth, the whole 9 yards. And it was when I started adding collagen to my shake in 2014. Within 2 weeks of adding collagen to my shake, my joint pain started going away. And that's when I started thinking, this is 2014. Okay, I'm onto something here. Maybe animal products aren't as bad for you as they're telling us they are. So I've been doing collagen every day, you know, four tablespoons of collagen for 10 years now. And that was a game changer for me. So, you know, every little bit, you know, something I added and something I took out helped me to level up in my health journey. And again, at 57 years old, I feel better than I ever have. I don't have the joint pain that I had 10 years ago at 47. I can do everything that I did when I was in my 30s. You know, I go out rollerblading with my dogs 2 miles every day. I don't feel like an old man. I feel like I'm in my 20s or 30s. I'm living in vibrant health with this diet that I eat, and I have been eating every single day now for nearly 5 years. And so this is what I eat every single day. And this is what you see here on the screen delivers all the essential nutrients that my body needs every day. And it doesn't need any more than this. And you can see there's not a whole lot of food here. And the only thing I really left out of this is a 32-ounce tumbler of filtered water. So to start, we'll just go through my day now. Right here, this is what I start my day off with. And this is my Perfect Amino protein powder. And this is 28 ounces of ice water and 1 scoop of Perfect Aminos, and then 1 scoop of Perfect Amino electrolytes. And I take that every morning on an empty stomach, and within 23 minutes it's in your bloodstream and doing what it needs to do to repair, to build, and it's 99% utilized. There is no waste with this product. And I learned about that in January of 2020 when I saw one of the body health ads on Facebook, and I saw essential amino acids, which took me back to 1996 with Dr. Joel Wallach talking about the essential amino acids, and put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, yeah, I never really looked at protein that way. Let me take a look at this product. And again, Body Health Perfect Aminos has been a complete game changer for me, and I've consumed this every single day for almost 5 years now. And I've got separate videos about just that product alone. Then, once I'm done with that, I start making my shake. And this right here has been the foundation of my diet since 2007. And it's changed a lot as far as the ingredients that I put in it have changed dramatically over the years to where I have it dialed in now to where it's nearly perfect. I mean, it is the most delicious tasting chocolate shake, and it's the one thing I look forward to more than anything else every single day. And it's why I'll never go fully carnivore, because I will miss this shake. So to me, high fat, low carb, ketogenic diet is my perfect diet, because I feel better than I ever have. And in the video tomorrow, part 4 of this series, the last part, I'm going to show you exactly all 22 ingredients that are in this shake, how I make it every single day, and again, I'll show you the nutritional breakdown in the next screen here. But that is the foundation of my diet, and I get 80% of my essential nutrients in just this one shake. After I finish making it, I drink it along with some snacks here, and that's pretty much satisfies me for the rest of the day. I don't get hungry, and then I have my dinner. And this is my dinner right here. It's a 1/3 pound grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef patty with Tillamook cheddar cheese, real cheddar cheese on it, a sausage link, and I usually just dip it in some mustard. So that, and then this is my tea that I have with dinner every night, and I put my colloidal minerals in the tea. And I'll probably make a video showing you how I make my tea, because I put my minerals in there, my iodine goes in there, and then some stevia drops, some vanilla, because it's a chocolate flavored tea. And the tea that I use for this is from Tiesta Tea, and I use they've got a couple different chocolate flavored teas, but they've got a whole myriad of different loose leaf teas. And I went to loose leaf years ago because I found out that the tea bags had all kind of toxins in them. And I've been using Tiesta Tea for probably, God, I have to say 10 years since I discovered them. But, so that's my dinner. And then for dessert, I'll have 1/6 of a Perfect Amino fudge chocolate bar. And what I do is I just cut it into 6 pieces. And I just have 1/6 of a piece, because A, they're not cheap. They're like $2.50, $3 a piece, and I'm on a budget. But what I do is I put it next to my burner when I'm cooking my burger, and so when I have it for dessert, it's nice and warm. It's actually like a chocolate lava cake is what it tastes like. And then I'll just eat it with my leftover 6 macadamia nuts here. So that's my dessert every night. It's just this little piece of a chocolate bar and 6 macadamia nuts. And it's delicious. And it satisfies that craving. You know, everyone gets that sweet tooth craving. And so that's how I do it. And I do that every day. As far as snacks throughout the day, these are actually cheese wisps. It's baked cheese. This is the Sonoma Valley pepperoni crisps. And oh my God, they taste exactly like a New York pepperoni slice. You know, the big slice that you get, the greasy slice of pizza. I don't know how they do it, but It's delicious. And they have another one out that tastes like a basil margarita pizza. And then these are Parmesan cheese wisps. And so this is how I satisfy my crunch. You know, they're really savory and there's no carbs. I mean, there's maybe 1 gram of carbs per serving. So again, I get my crunch, and then while I'm making my shake, I'll usually have a hard-boiled egg, I'll have a couple macadamia nuts, and then this beef stick here I will snack on throughout the day. Just a couple bites. You know, I'll put it back in the fridge and then a couple bites later. And you'd be surprised, like once you're in a state of ketosis, if you do get a little hunger pang, it doesn't take much to just satisfy that craving, whatever it is. You know, I don't eat a lunch. I just kind of graze on just these little things. And then if I do get a little bit hungry, I have this Archer grass-fed beef stick. Or if I have a craving for something sweet, this is a 90%, I think, Sam's Club cocoa bar. And I'll have just 1 square. Because again, all you're trying to do is satisfy that craving in the mind. You don't have to have a whole chocolate bar and flood your body with 15 grams of sugar. One of these squares has less than 1 gram of sugar in it. So you can still feed that desire, that sweet tooth, without doing any damage to your body. And so that's how I do it. And so, yeah, this is it. This is my entire diet. This is essentially what I've been eating every single day for almost 5 years now. And people will say it's not sustainable or it will get boring. It never gets boring for me. Because like I said in part 2 of this video series, I'm not a foodie, I'm a fuelie. This is all high octane fuel for my body. There is no garbage in this picture anywhere. This is all essential nutrients, nothing extra. It's all of the energy that I need to get through my day every single day. And I mean, that's why I showed you what my meals were for years, for 10 years. It's now down to this. It's a small plate with just a burger patty and a sausage on it. That's my dinner, along with a little bit of dessert and my tea. That's what I have for dinner. And then the shake is my breakfast, essentially. And that's what I do. So people have been asking me all these years. That's it. So let's take a look now at my food audit and the breakdown. And we're going to start with the shake. And again, in part 4 of this series, I'm going to show you exactly how I make it. These are the 22 ingredients over here. If you can pause this and take a look at all the nutrient breakdown here. But let's go to the bottom here. Now a full shake, and this is what I did for 15 years. I would have a full shake every day. And it was 2 years ago. No, actually a year and a half ago, like early in 2023. I had been on this keto diet for 3.5 years, and I was having everything that I just showed you, but I was having a full shake every day. Okay? Every single day I was doing a full shake. And I finally decided I still had some visceral fat left in my gut. I was still like 190 pounds. And I looked down, and if I could see my belly sticking out, I wasn't happy. Like, I want my flat stomach back. And so I just like, hey, you know what? The easiest way to cut out, I guess, calories would be to just cut your shake in 2. Instead of having a full shake every day, cut it in 2. Because what I would do is I would take half of the shake and put it in that mason jar you saw back here, and I would fill this up twice. But now I just fill it up once. And so with a full shake a day, that was almost 1,600 calories. And so by cutting it in 2, I cut out 800 calories every day. And that was the game changer. That was the final game changer. So what you saw back here, this right here, is my perfect diet. And it's taken me years to get here, right? But this is everything I need. I don't have any nutritional deficiency. I sleep well. I'm never hungry. I always have energy. So this is it. And so a full shake was too much for me because I wasn't burning off that extra 800 calories a day, even with as active as I am. Even rollerblading two miles every day with my dogs. Even going to the gym 3 days a week. Other than that, I pretty much sit at my computer, or that's as active as I get. And most people aren't even that active. So in the next screen, you'll see exactly how many calories I eat on a daily basis. But that shake right here, that costs me only $4.73 per day. That's less than most people spend on one Starbucks. That doesn't give them any essential nutrition at all. But for that $4.73, I get 80% of the essential nutrients that my body needs every single day. So that's not only efficient, it's very, very affordable. Anybody can afford to consume one of these shakes every day and ensure that their body is getting the essential nutrition it gets. So again, that's the foundation, and then this is everything else. My perfect amino protein, daily, it's only 5 grams, but it delivers the equivalent of 30 grams of another protein source. So that's how it works out, because other proteins aren't 100% utilized. You only get anywhere from 3 to 47%. Eggs are the one thing that delivers the most bioavailable protein or amino acids of any food out there. And then it slowly goes down. Protein powders only deliver about 18%. So if you think you're getting protein with your protein powders, you're only 18% of that is actually bioavailable. The other 82% is ultimately getting converted into glucose and converted to fat if you don't burn it off. And that's what I found out in 2019 when I was committed to going to the gym 3 days a week. I vastly increased my protein intake, and by the end of the year, I had a whole belly full of visceral fat. And I couldn't figure out where that came from. And then in January 2020, I learned about Body Health Perfect Aminos. Everything clicked together, and that's when I went on the ketogenic diet. Yeah, so the Perfect Aminos every day cost me $1.50. With that and the electrolytes, on my workout days, I take an extra scoop on my workout days while I work out. So that works out to $2.43 on my workout days. And then my snacks, $2.50 a day for all those snacks that I showed you. And then my dinner is only $3.78. So the total cost of my diet every single day is $12.47. So everybody out there that says they can't afford to eat healthy, I'm going to have to disagree with you, because you can. If you seek out the right foods, if you do your food audit, you figure out what's going into your body, take out the foods that aren't good for you, add the foods that your body's looking for, the essential nutrients your body's looking for, you can do it for $12.50 a day. I've been doing it for 5 years. And I'm still in optimal health. So it's possible to do. And then again, on my workout days, $13.50, an extra $1 for that extra scoop of perfect aminos. So that's my perfect diet. And it's working for me. And it'll probably work for millions of people if they would try it. And if you want to try it, you can go to the website, you can go to the store. The links for all the products are right in the store. And you get healthy, I earn a living, and I can continue to bring you these videos that will continue to educate you on why I got to where I am and how I got to where I am and how I know what I know. Because a lot of these videos are going to be breaking down into 10-minute videos to show you. That's what I've learned over the last 17 years. And I'm going to share it with the world because I know it works. You've seen my pictures. Everyone that sees me just sees somebody who's in vibrant health. Because there's no garbage in my diet. and I get all my essential nutrients. So that's it. And that's the end of part 3. So join me tomorrow, and I'm going to show you exactly how I make my essential nutrient shake, because that again is the foundation. I'm going to show you all the ingredients that go into it, and again, if you want to try it, it was a game changer for me. It might be a game changer for you too. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate that you got through all the way to the end with me. And yeah, join me tomorrow for part 4. I love you all, and have a great day. Bye-bye.